Okay, so I believe we are live. Hi, good evening, everyone. Just give me a confirmation if you guys can, clearly hear me and see both of us in the chat. I'm just waiting for your confirmation, guys. Good evening, everyone. I believe. Hi, Bharadwaj. Just give me a confirmation because there's some, lag on my part. Just give me a confirmation if you guys can hear and see us very clearly. Great. Thank you, guys, for the confirmation. Right. So yes, so a very good evening to everyone who is present here, and yes, we are back with yet another collaboration with industry, or you can say a framework, a real-time framework that focuses on full stack, and the name is Fastn. So we have Amit, who is the CEO of Fastn, and he is into the industry for almost a decade now, working for various startups who have big, you can become unicorn, and he has been handling tech for them, right? So what my job here is, I am just going to help you understand the regular stuff, right? What is the process that you guys have to follow to make sure that you are completing the whole program, and also how you can become eligible to win swags. So as always, this program is going to be for 3 days, that is today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, same time, 6:30 to 7:30. And yes, this is going to be a hands-on program again. Like, I believe you must have enrolled for previous programs, so you guys know the drill, but a few things are different, right? So I'll just share my screen. So make sure that next 5 to 10 minutes you're very attentive, because that you have to follow for the next 3 days to make sure that you complete the program, you get the certification, and also get swags from Fastn and LetsUpgrade, right? So this is the document that we are going to follow: luc.io/fastn101. This is going to be the go-to document for any help that you require, and how, if you don't understand, right, how the program progresses, this is where you have to go. Let's understand this document very clearly. This is the link. This link will be available in the chat, in the comments, in the description. So just go, and I'll also just put it right away as we are just doing the session, right? So you can get this link. This will be also in the description, right? So save this link, bookmark this for the next 3 days, right? So you will see a Discord server. The very first step that you have to go and do is join this Discord server. So all of those people who are attending this session live today, and also is going to attend this in the recorded mode, the very first step that you have to go and do is join the Discord server for Fastn. Why? Because since it's a framework, whatever queries you get, you can say come across where you get stuck, right? We have people from Fastn who are going to help you solve those queries in the Discord channel. So we have a LetsUpgrade channel created there. Please go and join this server as soon as possible, so that after this session, when you try out things, you get stuck, you can ask those, you can put your screenshots there, and people can help you out. Second thing that you're going to do is how to make sure that you complete this LetsUpgrade and Fastn web dev expert certification and win swags. The first step is very important, that is you have to go and enroll into this program. So if you have enrolled, very good. If you are not, and if you're directly joining on YouTube, the very first step is to go and enroll. So how do you do that? Check in the description, you will see one link, or you can just head over to our website, letsupgrade.in. I believe my screen is now changed to the website. Yes, just go on the website, just scroll down, and you will see this Fastn program right here. Just scroll down a bit. Yes, you will see this Fastn program. Just hit on enroll. So once you enroll, right, if you're signed in, it will directly sign you in. If not, it will make you to sign in. If you are new, please create an account, right? I'll just sign in. Just a minute. Yeah. So once you sign in, right, so it will take you to a dashboard. This is your go-to place for everything regarding the program. That is your attendance, your certification, your assignments, right? Whatever Amit will give you throughout the program, you will get everything here, right? So once you enroll, you have to just go to my programs, right? And you will see that every program that you've enrolled for. So like you see Fastn web dev here, just hit on to there, and this is the dashboard that you come into, right? The schedule for the next 3 days is here. Wherever you want to, let's just go to YouTube and watch, you can watch from here. Now that we are into the first session, you can mark your attendance here. Attendance marking and completing the assignments is important, right? So just rate the session whatever, like the way you loved it. If you are rating anything less than 10, right, even if you're putting 9, just let us know that what can we improve. So you have to just uh, communication. For example, I'm putting in if I'm interested in the web dev program, and this is how you mark your attendance. And then your progress for the program would change, and this attendance is available once the program starts, right? So since no assignment have been put now, so the attendance is 33%. As we progress through the course and assignments are added, the assignment option will also be available here below the attendance mark. And once you complete 50% of the program, or and the program completes, that is on the 30th of August, you will be able to see a download certificate button right here. Okay, if you click on this, you will see the parameters for getting the certificate. Your progress should be more than 50%, and the program should be over. Once you get the certificate, right after 30 August, you complete the program, you get the certificates. Now it's time for you to claim your swags. Now, how do you do that? Again, let's head over to the document. So what you have to do is you have to share about what you have learned in this whole program, right? So you can write a post on LinkedIn, on Twitter, just mentioning what you have learned, and just use this hashtag, that is Fastn Expert and Let's Upgrade, right? And once you do that, these are the LinkedIn and you can say handles, right? Wherever you want to tag us, Amit, please tag Amit, please tag Fastn, please tag Let's Upgrade, so that we get a support that okay, we are doing this, and Fastn gets greater exposure of, so they can reach more and more students. Because I'll tell you, it's a wonderful framework. You can create things like in a, you can say, a very fast way, right? So this is the sample content. If you just copy paste this in your LinkedIn, in your Twitter, and just tag the respect, like tag Let's Upgrade, tag Fastn, tag Amit, who's going to a mentor, and just write about what you learn. And again, hashtags are very important. And also you have to attach your certificate, right? Whatever certificate you will earn, you have to upload your certificate, and then you have to fill this form. You have to give the link of your post, either it's LinkedIn, either Twitter, in this form, and the first 100 people will get swags from Let's Upgrade and Fastn, which will be shipped to your places. So it can be a bottle, a t-shirt, a diary, anything. So first 100 people are going to get swags, and which will be shipped to you, right? So any queries so far, guys? Any queries so far? I'm just looking at your chat before I hand over the whole session to Amit. Any queries so far? So we have almost, I say, 180 students. Okay, I don't know why I'm not able to see the live chat, all messages. Right. I think everything is clear. Great, amazing. So now let's start with learning Fastn and just experience the wonderful thing that Amit and his team has created. So before we start, right, I'd of course love Amit to give a brief background about his journey in this tech industry, and how he landed over to Fastn, and so that students get to know the background before they start learning this wonderful framework, right? Over to you, Amit. Have a wonderful session, and all the best, students. I'll see you at the end of the day. Bye bye. Over to you, Amit.
Hey guys, glad to meet you. Thanks a lot, Prasad, for introducing me. About me, I passed out from IIT Bombay in 2003. Right, so I have around 20 years of experience. I've worked with a lot of decent companies, very good companies. I was the first employee of SMS Gupshup, which has become a billion-dollar company. I was the first employee and VP engineer of Browser Stack, which has also become like a $3-4 billion company. Fun fact, Browser Stack founders were interns in my first startup. I after passing out from IIT Bombay, actually instead of joining a company, I did my own startup. Right? And most recently, I was part of ACO. So ACO Insurance, you guys must have seen the TV ads, etc. I was the CTO of ACO from 2016 to 2020. So I've done a lot of programming. I love programming, and I have taught a lot of people also programming. So I've been like kind of a joke in ACO that I'm CTO, and my real listing is I'm the chief teaching officer, because I'm constantly teaching people, uh, like Python, or I feel like everyone should get into programming, right? So further, I have a how do I say, hired around 300, 350 people in last 20 years of career, where I directly interviewed. I was the hiring manager this time. And the one of the biggest this thing for when you hire, the headache for the hiring manager, the guy who hires you, is how soon do you become productive when you join that company, right? So if you join today, today is your first day, when can we say that, hey, this guy now knows my code base, knows, understand the technologies and so on. And when the first PR is merged, or when the person is confident that they can contribute. And one of the problems that I've faced, right, in my entire this thing, or rather I have observed that virtually everyone faces, is that it's really the programming world is kind of really hard, right? I'll give you an example. In the world right now, there are 25 to 30 million programmers, right? But right now in the world, there are 65 to 70 million Excel users who can write non-trivial formulas. Right? So think about Excel users, right? Uh, these are 70 million, 65 to 70 million, which is around 2 to 3 times the total number of programmers, right? And these guys have all the skills. They know how to use if then else. They know how to use loops. They know how to use function calls, variables. They understand these are the stuff you fundamentally use, right? Like when you're becoming a programmer, these are the fundamental things that you learn. Um, so they kind of know programming, and yet we would not call them programmers. They would not call themselves programmers. In fact, you ask them, are you a programmer? They'll be like, obviously, no, we are not programmers. Think about a person who has fully skilled to be a programmer, but scared of programming, right? And you really see this in the front end world as well, right? There's so many people who are like a backend developer who simply cannot create, front end. Right? The front end is particularly really hard because the Django. So, for example, in 2005, I learned about Django. 2005, 2006, so right before it was launched publicly. Around the time it was like um, so what we what we used to write in Django in 2005-6 period time versus what we write in 2023 is fundamentally largely the same, right? You define models, you define views, there are templates, there are admin, right? Django is the same. If someone who has not done any Django programming since 2007, they see code base written in Django today, they'll be completely familiar and comfortable. But JavaScript world, front end world has been massively reinventing itself for very good reasons, but also for sometimes for virtually no reason, right? Like it's really hard, and backend developers are constantly struggling to learn front end, right? And even for front end developers, it's almost like a full-time job for them to keep up with what is the latest trend or latest technology. And these are not small changes. For example, I was recently talking to one of the companies that I mentioned. They went through a very big, around 2 month project where they converted their entire website, which was done using React, or rather with using Create React app, to using Next.js app, right? Like it was kind of like like, and this is just the latest one. Is you had for example, the React hooks, right? It kind of totally changed the way you did the did structured React programs. Um, so the front end world has been like so. If you look at those Excel guys, they have no hope of keeping up with, let's say, front end, right? They just can't dream of, and not because programming is hard, but front end is weird, right? It's doing weird stuff, right? Why is it changing? I don't know. So this is kind of the context, right? So where we like, how do we solve this problem, right? And uh, guys, can we present the screen? My screen is visible, perfect, right? So in this context where programming is kind of really hard even for programmers, and there are a lot of non-programmers who know all the programming logic stuff, but they cannot really comfortably program. In that context, I kind of set out to create a brand new language, right? So we want to create a programming language for people, for masses, for the next billion, I call it the next billion programmers are probably not going to use JavaScript. 25 to 30, like 25 million people are not using JavaScript, right? So out of the 25 million developers, maybe 10%, 20, 50% are using JavaScript, maybe, right? But we want to create a programming language which is really, really easy, right? That's one of the this thing, and also a programming language which is really um, geared towards helping you and everyone build, web pages, websites, user interfaces, right? Kind of where. Uh, so if you look at the overview, I will give you some. So this is a very, very simple hello world program, right? So this is a component which has been already imported, so don't go by that. But I want you to compare this syntax, right, and see how do I say simple the syntax is, how minimal the syntax is, right? So you can imagine what the, let's say, JSX syntax would look like, or how the HTML looks like. This is just a tag, right? You can think of this as a tag or a component or a React component or web component or whatever. So this is a component called Amit. Let's say I've created it, I'll show you how it is done. But look at the end user use flow, right? So this is a string, right? And again, look at this beautiful thing aspect that there is no double quotes in this, right? So here you have a multi-line string, right? And as you see, there's nothing fun like weird going on. Like if you write a multi-line string in JavaScript, etc., you have to just learn to not just put double quotes, but put something in the front or back, or in Python you have to go from double quotes to triple quotes to write a multi-line string. Or if you're writing multi-line string, you definitely want to. Another thing I want you to notice is that we have not used any indentation. So a lot of Fastn code written in our programming language does not use indentation, right? There are a few places where you definitely want indentation. You can use them, but most of the huge amount of code you will see that it doesn't indentation, and yet it looks good, and yet it is readable, right? So I'll show you a lot of examples. So and that's another thing that we very consciously did, right? If you think about non-programmers, right, they don't have programming editor. Like the moment, like for example, why can't Excel users who know kind of programming fundamentals cannot call themselves programmers or cannot program, is because if they have to use Python, they have to suddenly first learn VS Code or any of the programming editor. Because why? Because Python is indentation, like programming languages require indentation. And if you use an editor that does not natively support automatically indenting the next line, if you press enter, it's going to be torture to keep on pressing space, 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 space to align each line. In case of Python, it will be even torturous, because in Python, if the alignments are not valid, does not match, Python will give you a syntax error. So this is the hello world, right? Like I want you to appreciate how much nicer this hello world is compared to the most hello world you might have seen, right? Which is like and that's one of the things that we have done. The programming language is directly in Python, even in JavaScript, for example. By default, Python and JavaScript, these languages operate on strings, right? So the basic primitive in Python is string. When you take any input from stdin, it is string. You then parse it. If you get some input from HTTP, again, it is kind of string or byte array, and then you parse it. And it's a lot of work to take those strings and convert them to UI, right? So you have to convert it to, so where we are natively a UI, so you can argue we are closer to HTML than Python in that sense. You can argue that this is just a markup language, but as you see that this is actually a full-blown programming language, right? So and yeah, look at this. Like we natively support, for example, Markdown, right? So if you're writing bold or doing stuff like this, it's kind of really, really trivial, right? So now let's look at something which is slightly more complex, right? So here we are. I'll show you these things in larger detail in later part of the session. But for now, just look at the sample snippets. So here I'm actually importing a package, right? So this is a package created by the ecosystem, right? So someone has created this Bling/quote package, and you can go and look at the package. So the beautiful thing is the package name is also the package documentation URL, right? So if you come across a Python import statement or a JavaScript import statement, you have to really Google or go to package doc, or it'll be like kind of like a very long journey to given a package name to go to the documentation of that package, right? So that's so these are a lot of tiny things that we have done to make it really easy for non programmers to make their life easy. So anyway, so this is a package, right? So this is JavaScript, Fastn package that you can uh, import, and then here is the usage of this particular, right? So let's say you wanted to use this quote uh, block, right? So this is what you're writing, right? So again, you see this is a little bit more complex example. We have data which is passed to this guy over here, right? So as you notice, there is no name here, right? Because it kind of reads very nicely, right? If you look at if you had no explanation, you probably can automatically guess that this is a quote by this person, and the quote itself is this, right? So these are the again small things that we have done. So this is effectively a function call which has two spatial places. Like this we call it caption, right? So if you write in the same line, it is called caption, and I'll show you how to create component that will use caption. And this is called body, right? So these two spatial location in our grammar allows you to create anonymous or well defined this thing. And these other parameters, right? So this guy takes actually 5 parameters. 2 of them are kind of not given a name. They are given a place in the syntax, and 3 of them have been given names, right? So obviously more complex examples are possible, and we'll show them. This again emphasizes, for most end users, once you see this code, you feel like writing this code, right? So this almost feels like, how is this a programming language? You might, some of you might be wondering, and that's one of the most commonly heard question that I keep across, right? So anyways, so and here is an example where, let's say, we are taking this this button, right? So this entire source code of this button is over here, right? So we are creating a component. uh, so here we are creating a component. So this is the invocation of the component, right? So this particular line that you see, dash dash something. One other thing I want to again re-emphasize is, to simplify the syntax, you'll notice that dash dash import and dash dash call line, right? Both of them has exactly the same syntax, right? More or less, right? So this is again a very tiny thing that we have done. If you notice here, component declaration, right? So the way you're declaring a component, for example, if you're writing JSX or React, right? So the way you invoke a component versus the way you define a component are completely fundamentally different, right? So so invocation looks like, let's say, React hello world. If you look at some of these examples, right? So the way you are defining this, right? So this looks very neat, or rather relatively neat, but the way you define this component, it becomes like you have to go to the full JavaScript and world and write a function, or maybe a class, depending on when you started using React. So we have in this case, we have a component, and this component, the name of the component is toggle text, right? And this is how we are using it. Uh, this component takes 2 arguments. We'll come to these things later on. And these arguments, so in this case, one of them is, caption. So this is what I was talking about, right? So Fastn itself is unlike, let's say, JavaScript or Python, which is a dynamic type language, we are a static type language, right? So the type of this variable is Boolean, right? So before you use a variable, you have to declare the type of the variable, and you have to then you cannot change subsequently. Now this caption actually is an alias for string, right? So effectively, it is just a string. By using caption, you're basically saying, hey, this title fellow can show up in this location. So this location is called the caption location, and we'll show the grammar, etc. later on. But right, and another thing that I want you to notice is that what else we have done is so for example, we have taken a bunch of CSS, right? So we looked at the CSS out there. Now CSS is one of the reasons why web development is hard, is because look at the CSS. It's almost, almost jokingly, like maddeningly complex. There's CSS 1, probably 2, 3, 4, and there's like all sorts of cross-browser CSS issues. It's like just to add some colors, and like for the tiny thing that CSS does, it is just too extremely complex. If you think about an Excel user, or if you're teaching programming to your kid, or you're someone who doesn't know programming, imagine the torture that they have to go through to really learn all sorts of, and CSS again, constantly changing, right? Like before Flexbox, there was like everything was not using Flexbox. Now suddenly everyone is using Flexbox, and possibly Grid is coming up, and then probably some weirdness. Anyways, so we have created a very tiny subset of the CSS properties that are styling properties that we believe can be used. Like this entire website that you see in front of you is powered by Fastn, right? So you can actually create virtually anything using us, and we do it. But we do it by creating a very tiny set of. So if you're curious about it, you can go to the, let's say, front end, and you can look at the attributes over here, and these are all the attributes that are available to you, and if you really want to learn. Apologies for network issue. Yeah, so all the properties like padding, vertical padding. But what I want you to appreciate here is, while this is a lot, this is still very few, right? So this is the entire set of properties that we believe you kind of need, and this you can learn and quickly finish it off, right? Unlike CSS, which is a really massive. Um, and again, you don't have to worry about things like selectors and important and class and all of that CSS kind of madness. Right? They serve some purpose, but they make it extremely hard for people to learn to program. And not only are we writing CSS here, we are also writing, conditional. Like, again, I want you to appreciate how neat, simple the code is, how readable the code is, right? So you're basically saying the value of the color of this text block, right? So if you look at the text block, it's kind of changing between white and black, kind of shade of black and shade of white. So if the value of the variable current is here, right, is true, right, then the color would be this guy, right? And if it is not true, then the color would be this, right? So again, as you see, if you mentally translate it into jQuery code or Yak code or any such code, you will see that it would have been not as clean as this two line, right? So anyone can just see it. It's extremely clear what we are trying to do. Similarly, over here, we are doing event handling. We are actually changing, right? So when someone clicks on this button, right, we want to change the value of this current variable, right? So another thing I want you to notice that we have two variables defined. One is $current. So why is it called $current? Because this is a mutable variable, whereas this is title, which is not a mutable variable. So all the mutable variables in Fastn starts with a dollar. So here this variable has a default value, so you do not have to pass it. So if you notice, I have not passed the value of current because it has a default value. I could have passed it if I wanted to, but I don't have to. I have to pass the title, which is here, but title cannot be mutated. So in my program, I can't mutate the title because I've declared it as a non-mutable variable. So again, these are again, this was a decision that we took after a lot of consideration whether, let's say in JavaScript, all variables are mutable, right? So now if some variable does not have the right value, you have to kind of see a lot more code, and you have to debug during debugging it becomes slightly harder. If you look at the languages like Rust or languages like Haskell, in functional programming language, they just don't allow any variable to be mutable, right? So in Rust also there's a big distinction between mutable and immutable variables. And by making most of the variables immutable, you actually make your job as a person who is reading the code much simpler to understand, because if there is a bug, most likely the bug is going to be in this guy and nowhere else, not in the code related to the title, right? So yeah. Now I want to show you some more example. So now not only can we so we have a concept of a, so let's look at. So if you want to understand uh, faster, right? So one of the first thing is you have to learn about variables. So there are actually two ways to create variables. One is these are global variables, right? So here we are creating a variable called X. It's part of the document. It has the global scope, and each variable has a strict type. I will show you this later on, right? Like more about variables and stuff. But I want you to appreciate that, familiarize yourself. Ki, along with the basic, so we have a lot of built-in types. Some of them are defined. Uh, right? So we have built-in basic type, Boolean, integer, decimal, string, and so forth. And then the special type, caption, and body, etc. And we also have this thing called record, which allows you to create a record here, right? So it's basically like a class in JavaScript or like a struct in Rust and so on, right? So you're declaring a record. The name of the record is person, and then it has three properties, and uh, we'll take a look at this, but let's continue with our walkthrough. So if you go back to the overview page, is this slow? Okay. Yeah. So in this case, what we are doing is we are actually making a HTTP request to fetch some data, right? So again, I want to explain the philosophy that we want to look at the common stuff that most people do and make it as simple as possible, right? Because in JavaScript, you'll have to learn about the fetch library, and ideally making HTTP call should be the most core thing in JavaScript. So we have kind of like eliminated those complexities and given you here you are actually passing query parameters. So again, you can see in JavaScript, you would have written a double quote string, or in Python also, and you'd use some very weird escape characters and ampersand and so on. Here you are writing very clean code. In this example, I'm showing you, you can actually make a call, SQL query call, and you can fetch the data and then show it to people, right? So we have created a language, and we have done a lot of stuff to make things simpler, right? So in the next part, so this is the overview of the language. Like we want to democratize programming so that, let's say, billions of people can write program, right? Now let's look at a case study to understand what is the real this thing, right? So how we feel end users will use our programming language. What is the context in which this programming language really shines, right? What is the use case where you should use us versus maybe React or some other technology? Now, so this particular website is powered by Fastn, right? So this is a very common run-of-the-mill task. Huge, all of you might want to create a portfolio site, or if you work for a company, you'll probably have to maintain a website, right? There's nothing very special about here. I may highlight the fact that we do support by default, you know, uh, dark dark mode. Dark mode has, by the way, language level supports, unlike JavaScript where you have to write some code. There's no problem in writing some code to support dark mode. The problem is that the way you write some code to support JavaScript versus the code that some other team will write to support dark mode will be different, right? Because JavaScript has not provided a standard way of managing the code. So you might be storing the dark mode session value in local store. Someone might say, oh, no, no, I'll store it in cookie. Someone might say, okay, I will just not do. And the end result is that if you join some JavaScript team, you will have to learn, okay, how does this particular team manage dark mode, right? You have to learn that, and it's a wastage of time because like every single person, every time they're moving from one team to another, learning these small stuff, right? So anyways, so this is the site, and this is the source code of this site, right? So so for example, let's look at this. This is a more realistic example of source code, right? And here, I want you to appreciate one of the thing that we have really strived hard for is to make it really easy to write, right? So if you have to create a site like this, let's say using React, um, the copy, right? Like the text, this particular text would be embedded somewhere in your React JavaScript file, right? And it'll not be very trivial to find out where this string is, in which file is it defined, and so forth. And even if you can easily find the file, you still have to learn either the JSX code or, depending on the way you've written it, JavaScript string or something to modify this. Here, as you see, so this is the working code behind this website, right? So I want you to appreciate how neat the code looks like, right? So this is the end user. The expectation is why did we create the language which is so easy, so that the entire team, let's say if you go to, let's say, any of my previous companies, Acco, Browser Stack, the website of Browser Stack, right, is built by developers. But if the CEO wants to change this copy, they will have to ask the developer, hey developer, can you change it? Because or CEO will have to write the JavaScript or a JSX code or whatever they are using to power this. Right now, this is not awesome. This basically means the CEO or non-developers simply cannot update the website unless they have been given some complicated solution like a SaaS or some CMS that you're integrated, which increases the complexity of your project. So if you're using JavaScript, if you're using React, and if you have done this website, you as a developer will forever be asked either to constantly come and update the copy, right? Which I hope, like you as a developer, like hope you realize that you as a developer would not enjoy it constantly. uh, Further, you will also be wasting time getting interrupted, right? Instead of doing something more meaningful, right? So if you have to create any content-centric website, if you do it in Fastn, if you deliver it in Fastn, right, you can hand it over to the end client and hope for them to learn and this language. Obviously, this is definitely harder than, let's say, if you're using Webflow or using some WYSIWYG drag and drop. But you get a lot of negatives with those, and writing it in, let's say, React or JavaScript means that you have got no limitation, right? If you're using Webflow, you're limited by what Webflow is providing. If you're using Wix, you're limited by what Wix is providing, and so on. But if you're using React, there's no limit to what you can do, right? You can create any website out there, any kind of product, Google, Gmail, Google Maps, etc., can all be created in React. So there's no compromise. But the compromise on the case of React is only developers can update the content, right? So we have created a language that end users can easily like they don't like if I have to ask, like, look at all of these, right? So this guy is responsible for this which one is that, engage, right? So this is the guy which is responsible for this particular content. This really neat. Sorry. um, And now this is not the only reason. Like this the fact that this code looks really clean and non-developers can easily edit it is definitely one of the reasons why you should use Fastn. Uh, Look at, let's say if you want to change the pricing, look at the neatness of this particular code versus the this page, right? So this entire source code of this is this line, right? Think about any time, have you seen code this clean, right? Uh, so now the other benefit of this, which is the real benefit, right, is this. Let's say if you have users, and let's say this is how the site looks like right now, right? It's decent site. It's looks kind of all right. Let me switch to the dark mode. Now, let's say someone has sent this pull request, and I want to appreciate how tiny this pull request is, right? There are only three lines that have changed, and let's look at this website, right? So this website now suddenly looks like this, right? So again, I wanted to appreciate with one line of or three lines of changes, a site which looked like this has become or is looking like this, right? Obviously, it's three line of change because we are changing the library that we are using, but that's the beautiful thing that we are creating an ecosystem which doesn't exist, let's say in JavaScript, where you can just easily replace color schemes, easily replace typography. This is color scheme package, this is a typography package, and this is the theme package, the design package, which controls the high level stuff like the layout, right? So here the layout is left right, here the layout is top to bottom. So these kind of stuff were designed controlled by the theme. I actually have another PR which only changes, for example, let's say the color scheme. Let's say you want to only change the color scheme. There is this, here you are just changing one line, right? From Midnight Storm to Pink Sakura. And and here is your site, right? So in this case, this site and this site are exactly the same, but the color schemes are different, right? So if you can you do this with React? Obviously, completely, right? But let's say, has any of my past companies done it, right? Probably no, right? Exactly no, right? Because it requires engineering, it requires effort, it requires planning, and even if you do that, one of the things that you get with Fastn is that if you're using Fastn, you don't just get a language, but you get an ecosystem of ready-made components and stuff, right? So here, as you see, if you want to create a documentation site like this particular site that you see is a documentation site. It has the header, and then this has this sidebar. Um, or if you want to create a landing page like this kind of site, right? So there's so many designs ready-made available for you. If you want to create a blog, if you want to create all sorts of sections and testimonials, if you want to create resume, even things like business card, right? If you want to create a business card, you like so many designs are available to you, and we are just getting started, right? And that's what is happening. So, for example, we have this Discord with like we already have around 1,200 people, and what we are asking is obviously, hey, please create these components. And the beautiful thing here, you can argue that you can do the same thing with React, but in React, there is no single color way to specify color scheme. So every team in the world who is using React would specify the color scheme in slightly different way. So the color scheme created by developer A cannot be used by developer B if they are working in two different teams, unless they are using exactly the same thing, which there is no standard. So we are creating a programming language. We are creating an ecosystem. We are creating like we have our own design system, right? Like for this to happen correctly, you have to actually design everything correctly, right? So we have created this, for example, a Figma plugin which lets you import the color schemes. Right? So if you are using any of those color schemes, they can be imported in Figma and easily edited in Figma. So we have created this whole thing, right? So this is what Fastn is all about, right? Now, let me show you some of the how you use it on a day-to-day basis, right? So the same repo that you saw, right? So this repo is here. We have cloned it in this particular folder. traversy.get. Okay. So this is the repo, and so Fastn, what is Fastn, right? So Fastn effectively is a CLI, right? So you go to fastn.com, let's say install, and you can install Fastn, right? So let's say this is how you will run, this is the command that you'll run to install Fastn. You guys are supposed to do that as part of, like, if you want to get the certificate, install it and do some of those stuff. Um, so once you install Fastn, you will get this Fastn CLI, right? So this is a tiny CLI, which, and if you see, right? So this is a 29 MB CLI, and this doesn't have any other, dependency or whatever. This is just one program that you can easily install on your machine, um, and this is the complete thing. Like, unlike, let's say, if you're using Python or Node, it's not just one binary that you ship and that is Node, right? So with Node, you have npm and you have probably something else, and they are kind of like complex. Like, you have to worry about package management, you have to worry about a lot of stuff. We take care of everything, right? So if you have, let's say, if you just checked out this package, it will contain this code, right? So I'll show you this code locally now for a. Uh, so one of the most important files, right, in a package. So this is a more relatively complex project that I'm showing you, right? So this is like the package.json or requirements.txt of your this thing. Again, I want you to appreciate how much neater and cleaner this is compared to, let's say, package.json or requirement.txt, and how much does it do for you, right? So you're defining a package here. This is the name of the package. So this is again the call that I was reminding you. The URL of the package is actually, this should be called uh, acme.fastn.com. So the URL of the package name should be the same as the URL of your project, right? So it's trivial for you to, we have specified a file icon. You have added a bunch of dependencies. So these are all different packages that are available to you on GitHub and on other places. We also have this auto import. So if you remember, if you see this file, this looks very clean because there's no import statement here, right? So effectively, actually, we have this very cool, simple feature. So if you see where the WS is coming from, it's because of this, right? If you really wanted to do it correctly, you would whether in a long listing. So this is the code you would have written, but because this is an import that I want to do in all the files, so we just have an auto import, right? So again, very tiny features. Like maybe React should also have auto import because you're probably importing React in all the React files. Sorry, JavaScript, but JavaScript doesn't have, because I don't know, they probably don't care about ease of use as much as we do, probably. We also have a concept of a sitemap, which is again very specific to web development. If you're ever building a website, you are going to have these headers and footers and these table of content. So we have created a structure for you again, so that all over the world, people are just not reinventing how do you change the header, how do you change, because this is right here, right? So if you want to change this, the header, all you have to do is modify these files. We have built-in support for redirects, which you can ignore that for now. And let's say this is your index file. Now, same thing that I showed, and Fastn comes with serve command, which basically, let's say I'm going to run it on local machine, and right. So this guy is running on my local machine. So this entire website. So again, I want you to appreciate the stuff you did not have to do, right? You did not have to deal with ugly package.json, right? You did not have to even install Node and npm separately. You did not have to manually like npm install, etc. We took care of all of that, right? Based on these dependencies, if you add something to the dependency here, we'll auto download it. So we store so this file is the equivalent of your what do you call it, the node packages, right? But unlike node packages, like there's one other thing that we do, which is kind of really nice, is that we only download the stuff that you really need, right? So if you so in Node, if you download a package, it add a package, it will just download the whole thing. So if you look at your Node package, it kind of becomes really big. And even if you never need that particular package or model, if you never imported that, even then you just have to download it from internet for some reason, right? Because Node decided to make it easy for Node than to worry about your use cases. So we are kind of especially if the packages are big, the download dependency download etc. can take quite some time, right? So this is the folder and this is the command, right? So now if you look at let's say, let's go and let me show you my website, right? This, let's say this is my website. Now the source code of this website is on GitHub. Amitu.com, right? And again, this is a basic Fastn package. And if you guys are ever creating your own blog or portfolios, it is probably not a very great idea to create a React project, because if you do it, you'll have to keep on maintaining it. As you see, it's a relatively old project, right? I don't really blog too often. But as you see how little maintenance I'm doing, this is always just working with the latest Fastn code, because Fastn has very little churn, right? So it doesn't have huge number of developers constantly adding packages, removing packages. Fastn does most of the stuff. So the amount of number of dependencies you take on is very, very few. And anyways, so how have we deployed this project, right? So so because you're talking about website, so there are the simplest way to deploy the site is to use GitHub Pages, for example. So if you create a website, like if you use Fastn, it kind of really makes your life very simple, because here I have just configured GitHub. All you have to do is tell GitHub, hey, GitHub, please deploy from a branch. The name of the branch is this particular branch. And and there is a GitHub action for you to actually do the right job, which is deploy.yml. If you look at this action, what we do is we install Fastn, right? We install Fastn, and then we run this command. Where is this command? Fastn build, right? So along with Fastn serve, which I showed you here, so we have two ways to see your site. Either you can run Fastn build and run a server and see your site, or sorry, Fastn serve, or you run Fastn build. And if you run Fastn build, a folder .build folder is created. Let's say if you go to fastn.com, you'll see .build folder here, and this build folder. So this is, let's say this is the source code, right? So there is, let's say, index.ftd. If you look at the build folder, right? So it gets converted to index.html, right? So this is what Fastn build is doing. It's taking care of all the dependencies and stuff, and it generates a folder called .build, which you can then easily deploy. Like for example, here we are using GitHub Pages. So again, I would want to. I think we are 5 minutes left. I will go through the questions and answer the question. But I want to give that this is the main overview. You can easily create websites. We have a lot of templates available for you. And obviously, you guys are all welcome to create your templates and, create, like, for example, we do want you to create an ecosystem. So for example, let's say these designs that you see, these are the stuff are all created by Muskan, right? So like I said, we want to create an ecosystem as well. So the ecosystem is going to be composed of these developers like you, right? So you guys can all easily learn Fastn and start contributing some of these components. And we are trying to basically do the same thing that GitHub has done for people. Like, for example, when you're doing a job search, if you have a few good GitHub repositories, it increases the chance of you getting a job, right? So what we are saying is you can create a bunch of good looking UI that gets used by people at large, right? So hopefully tomorrow, virtually every Excel user would be learning Fastn at some point. Every school kid would be learning Fastn at some point. Huge number of people will be learning Fastn. And when they are learning, they will come back to us and say, "Here, show me a portfolio site, show me a resume site, show me all of these things." And suddenly they would be, how do I say, they will see that this is done by who, and maybe it is done by you, and you will get these credit, and hopefully, you know. So yeah, I'm going to look at the YouTube comments now. Cool. Mostly hellos and questions regarding the platform. Yeah. Okay. Anyone has any question about us? Yes, someone has asked, would we learn about building websites tomorrow? Uh, yes, we will tomorrow. We'll go through the nitty-gritties. We will create simple components from scratch so that you can learn how all of these things work. Uh, we already have some of these things. So if you go to the front end section and click on the learn section, we have a bunch of YouTube videos that you can already go through it. We will be creating a component like this tomorrow, right? This is just a tiny component which has an expand collapse behavior, and it has this hover behavior. It's a tiny component intentionally we'll be creating so that we can create in an hour or so, and how to publish it, how to polish the UI and all sorts of stuff. So we'll be learning that tomorrow. Day after tomorrow, we'll be building. So let's say I'll show you this to-do app, for example. So let's say this particular yeah. So this is an app which is fully done in Fastn, right? So as you see, this is uh, if you see the source code of this file, this is done in Fastn. It's deployed on Heroku. And if you look at how are we getting this source of this to do, this is the secret sauce, right? So here, what we are doing is we are executing a query on our PostgreSQL database, and this is the query, and this is returning a list of to-dos, and based on that, we are creating a to-do. So you can use Fastn not just to build front end, that's another big difference, or you can use Fastn to build complete full stack applications, right? So tomorrow we'll learn about how to use Fastn for front end, and day after we'll learn about how to build Fastn for backend. Someone else asked, what language do you need to learn? None. You in the world that we want to create, you only have to learn Fastn. You will have to learn SQL when you come to it. But other than that, just so you don't know anything, you're perfectly good, right? You can attend the session tomorrow. Which extension you use for saving Fastn code? We use FTD. So as you see, all these FTD files are there. Someone says the code looks easier when compared to other languages. How about security due to static language that's safe, sir? Yeah, actually, static languages are actually slightly safer than dynamic ones because there's um, uh, like a compiler does. So actually, there's two different contexts static is used. If you mean by statically typed language, statically typed languages, unlike JavaScript and Python, uh, let's say Rust is a statically typed language. Statically typed languages are better for you. They have slightly larger learning curve, but they help you a lot by finding bugs at compile time. Otherwise, let's say if you write JavaScript code, if you modify something, you reload the page and then only you see the error. That's why TypeScript has become so popular in the JavaScript world, that people are like, okay, static typing is not great. Let me use types, and that is TypeScript, right? So today, TypeScript is definitely the way to go. Other thing is when it comes to security or speed, etc. If you are using static site generator. So there are a lot of, by the way, static site generators. So this is a category of product, right? So there are 355 static site generators. Next.js technically is not a static site generator, but sure. Hugo, Gatsby. So we are like these guys. Uh, Static site generator, the advantage of static site generator is that it produces a bunch of HTML, CSS, JavaScript file, which answers someone else's question key, how does it run in browser? It generates HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you're right, Ajit, that no need to learn HTML, CSS, JS. You can just learn faster and it will take care of everything for you. Yeah. Which software you use to do code? So we use Sublime Text or VS Code. So I personally prefer using Sublime Text. You have some Sublime. If you go to this URL, it tells you how to enable syntax highlighting for Sublime Text. We also have support for VS Code. So if you're using VS Code, you can install this particular extension following this particular documentation, and VS Code fast. So somewhere you will find to do better in Google. You can find like this instruction how to install Fastn extension in VS Code as well. Let me see what else. Can't you show how to install it? Yeah, we have shown that. Install, right? So if you go here, if you're using Linux or Mac, right, you can use this installer script. If you are using Windows, you can go to our Fastn repo and go to the releases, right? And you can install this setup.exe file. So fastn.setup.exe. So this is a very simple way to install it. Yeah. Let me see what else. Someone is asking about how to use GitHub. That we will have to cover in either a session. Okay. Okay, these are the questions. I would really appreciate if you guys can go to fastn.com and click on this link and give us a star, right? So it would be pretty awesome. And again, I want to reemphasize the point that Prasad, etc., has made in the beginning. Oh, there is only one. Hello. So because we are a new language, there isn't much content out there. If you have some questions related to Fastn, Google may not be able to help you answer you right now. So we recommend you please go to Discord and come to the ask for help, or even in general, you can just say hello in general and ask for your questions, right? And so there are a lot of people here. As you see, there are 1,000+ people on this channel. A lot of them have done some stuff in Fastn. A lot of them can help you, right? People are constantly building stuff. You can see all of these questions being asked and answered. So you'll get a lot of answers, hopefully, here than anywhere else. So I recommend please join our Discord. Again, fastn.com/Discord is the link if you have not yet joined, right? So if you go to fastn.com/Discord. Yeah, I guess this is it. Cool. Tomorrow's agenda, we will be building a front end, a UI component using Fastn. Do we need to learn JavaScript, CSS, or HTML? Absolutely not, right? So that's the beauty. You can learn Fastn without knowing any other programming. Like we are designing Fastn as the first programming language for kids, for non-programmers, etc. to learn. You can totally easily learners without knowing any other programming. Knowing other programming language really helps you, obviously, but not knowing doesn't cause a problem. Perfect. Okay, guys, I think let's sign off, and hope to see you on Discord.